Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurdevo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we'll start with verse number 51. So verse number 51 very beautifully states that the inherent factor of everything is what determines that particular factor. For example, what he is saying here in the shloka, what does he say? He says that Suvarnajayamanasya Suvarnatvam cha Shashvatam. So what he says is all golden things, all things made of gold, the inherent substratum of all of them is gold. So if there is a pure gold bangle and I take away the gold from the bangle, then what is left? Obviously, nothing is left, right? So similarly, if all the pots which are made of pure clay and we take away the clay from the pot, then what is left? Nothing is left. Similarly, therefore, anything that has name and form, anything that has rupa nama, has the substratum that is made up of it is Brahman. So therefore, he says in the second line, he continues, Brahmano jayamanasya brahmatvam cha tatha bhavet. So he says everything that is born, Shashwatam means permanent. So Brahmana, of Brahman, Jayamanasya, those which are born, they are of the nature of Brahman also. They are just modifications of Brahman. Now, I would like to correlate this with the Vishwarupa Darshan in Bhagavad Gita. Now, if you look at the Vishwarupa Darshan, I know in the Gita class we have not reached there, but if we look at that, then what is it that is Vishwarupa Darshan? Vishwarupa Darshan is basically a change in perspective and to be able to see Brahman in all the forms that are possible. Now, to use an allegory, when I see a pot, I can say that yes, this is clay. I can see another pot, I say it is clay. I see a picture, I say it is clay. But now, just imagine you see a mound of clay. Can you imagine all possible shapes and sizes and forms and names in that pot of clay? Obviously, that is something which is very difficult. It changes the entire perspective of how we are looking at things. Acharya here is prompting us to change our perspective. And he's saying, firstly, imagine everything that you can see is Brahman. Or rather, understand, not imagine. Understand that everything that you can see is Brahman. Then he says, now invert that and say, Brahman pervades everything. Everything that is there, the substratum of everything. So therefore, anything suddenly that you see something new, you have never seen it before. For example, you see a dragon. You have never seen a dragon before. Because you have never seen a dragon before, how will you, what will you identify it as? Oh, it is something alien, it is something different. But if you are in Brahman consciousness, then the dragon is also Brahman. It is something new that came up, even that is Brahman. Something that was beyond my imagination, something that was beyond my limitations of my mind, that also is also Brahman. So here he prompts us also to think about the fact that our imagination, our mind, our intellect are extremely limited. So we cannot imagine vastness. See, it is the vastness. Have you all heard of a Mobius strip? Raghuji, I'm sure you would have heard of a Mobius strip, right? Mobius strip. Mobius strip is a very interesting device. You take a strip of paper and you join the two ends, you will form a loop. But you take the two ends, you twist one end and you join it. Then that it appears to have two surfaces, but in reality, it has only one surface. You try the trick. You then draw a line along the length of that, you will find that both sides have got lines. It suddenly became one-sided, right? Another experiment will be you put a scissor through the middle and you cut it across from the middle. Now, if I cut a loop from the middle, it should form two loops. But you take a Mobius strip and you cut it from the middle, what you will get is one large loop. Now, can you imagine this? It is beyond our imagination. It is beyond, even when you are doing it, you cannot understand it. So our limitation of our imagination, our limitation of our intellect causes us never to be able to apprehend Brahman directly. And hence, Acharya here is telling us that logically think it through and understand from your intellectual point of view. At least you can understand it. You may not be able to experience it, but you may be able to understand it in terms of saying that Suvarna Jayamanasya Suvarnatvam Ja Shashvatam, that everything that is made of gold has gold as its substratum. Similarly, everything that you are seeing has Brahman as its substratum, because everything originated from Brahman. The word Brahman itself means Brihati, from Brihati, right? That which expanded. That which expanded became Brahman. So we look at the next shloka. Swalpam apyantara jivatmana paramatmanoho yovatishtati moodhatma bhayam tasyabhibhashitam. Very, very interesting shloka. He says there swalpam, little distinction, antaram, kritva, having created. The jivatma paramatmano. When there is a distinction between jivatma and paramatma, then such a person, he is a mood of a person, he experiences fear. Now, look at what Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad very beautifully says, Yasmad anya nasti kasmannu bibhebniti tat. So he says Yasmad anya nasti kasmannu bibhebniti. If there is none else, where is the question of fear? Tat evasya bhayam viyaya. Therefore, get rid of fear. Therefore, there is no fear. Therefore, I have got rid of fear. Because he says, Dvitiyadvai bhayam bhavati. Fear comes from the second. Fear comes when there are two. So here in Acharya's shloka, very clearly, he brings that same thought back to us, where he's saying that the duality, because of our ignorance, because of the avidya, because of the identification with the body, mind, intellect, and we say we are different from somebody else. Therefore, there is the question of fear. I think I've said this before in some other class. See, when I was young, my mother used to say, it is dark there is nobody there, don't go there. It is dark there is nobody there. Now, if there is nobody there, then where is the question of fear? And I always used to ask her, and she obviously didn't have an answer. Right? The fear comes from the fact that there is an unknown. The fear comes from the fact that there is something which is beyond me, and that may hurt me, that may harm me. Yes, please, Raghuji.
Yeah. So while there is no fear, the elephant may still trample the boy, irrespective of what the Mahat is saying.
Yes, very much so.
He may die without fear.
Yes, you're right. The body may die without fear.
Yeah.
The body may die, the mind will not have fear. Right, absolutely true. However, To answer this, in the next shloka, he talks about the Vyavaharika Satta. He very clearly in the very next shloka, he will talk about the Vyavaharika Satta. So firstly, let us understand that there is a Paramarthika Satta. There is a Vyavaharika Satta. Our problem is we are not fully in the Vyavaharika Satta, nor are we fully in the Paramarthika Satta. We are in the Pratyabhasika Satta. Pratibhasa means that which is illusory reality. We are living in the illusory reality. That Pratyabhasika Satta, the third Satta that is created, that is specific to Advaita Vedanta only. Pratyabhasika Satta is something that tells us that what I am seeing is an illusion, not because at the Vyavaharika level it is not real, but at the Paramarthika level it is not real. That is Pratibhasika or Pratyabhasika Satta. So this very clearly here in this particular shloka, he talks about the second. What is the second? Where does the second originate from? The second originates from the fact that ego is there. Ego comes from vasanas. Today I was having a very interesting discussion. Somebody came and he went into some sort of questioning, young chap, but not from a science background, and neither am I. But then some bit of reading has helped. So he was asking me, why does a cloud float? Why does it not fall? From there we went on up to the Big Bang. So the questions came on and it went on and on and on. It went right up to the Big Bang. Now I told him to imagine something which is infinitely small and yet infinitely dense. And that exploded. Now he had another very important question. He said, then when that infinitely small, infinitely dense thing exploded, what was before it? And I said, if you answer that, you get a Nobel Prize. Because that we have an answer. We have an answer. We call it Shiva. Right? We call it Brahman. We have an answer. Science doesn't have an answer for that. The void that existed before even void existed. What is that? Now, at that point, you have to go into metaphysics because there is no answer. Now, that particular thing, that unimaginable, infinitely small, infinitely dense, that which expanded into this entire universe, immediately, that first second in Sri Vidya, it is the first emanation of the first triangle from the Bindu, the first triangle. The first triangle, when the Bindu explodes, the first triangle that is formed, that is called the first emanation. Immediately, there are three, not two. Duality, we talk of duality as a term, but in reality, there are three. Why? Because bhojanam, bhojyam, bhokta. There will be three. The moment there is two, there is a third, which is connecting the two. Right? Experience, experienced, experiencer. So immediately there is three, and that is the first triangle. So along with that, all the other things also originate. Bhaya also originates, pleasure also originates. All of that originates when the duality starts. So here Acharya is saying that you live a life of misery, you live a life of fear, you live a life of anticipating things in the future because of the fact that you are living in duality. You are not living in unification. You are not living in oneness. Now, that poses a very big challenge because, I am non-dual. I have no, so my boss and I are the same. Won't work, right? My school teacher and I are the same. Won't work. The elephant and I are the same. Won't work. All of these situations at the Vyavaharika level can lead to a train crash or an elephant run over in our analogy that we are using. So then how does Acharya handle that? He tells us in the next shloka. Yatra jnanad bhavedvaitam itarastatra pashyati atmavena yada sarvam netarastatra chanvapi. Yatra ajnanat bhavet dvaitam itara, another, tatra pashyati atmavena, therefore the self, pashyati means sees, atmavena as the self, yada sarvam na itara. So therefore, when there is none other, when I do not see, everything is known to be the self. Tatra cha anu, in the least, even in such a situation, even the least of the fear, least of the negative emotions or negative things will happen. So how can I reach that point where I am living in that consciousness all the time? Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa's life itself plus his teachings very clearly indicate that you cannot live with the body in a continuous state of non-differentiated oneness. You cannot. If you are in that state, he says 41 days it will take for the body to drop off. Depending upon the maximum of 41 days. It may take less, it may take more. If you are in that state of non-differentiated oneness, it is called nirvikalpa samadhi. In nirvikalpa samadhi, once you have attained that and you stay in that samadhi, you cannot operate in this world because the world no longer exists in your mind, body, and intellect. You have dissolved it. So therefore, the body will automatically wither away. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa very clearly states this in his own life. Therefore, what does he do? He goes into nirvikalpa samadhi, comes down from nirvikalpa samadhi into what is called savikalpa samadhi, and speaks. From his own experience, as he states, that in such a state, the consciousness is retained at the throat, Vishuddhi Chakra. And from there, the teaching happens because the consciousness is retained at a particular point and it does not go down below. What is the seat of pleasure in the human body? The seat of pleasure is the 5 indriyas. That is what we say. The seat of the seat of pleasure is actually the manas. Seat of pleasure is not the indriyas. The indriyas are creating sensation. How you interpret that sensation is what creates pleasure or pain. If pleasure or pain was to be created by the indriya, then we would have the same feeling that we have towards our wives as we have towards our mothers. But we don't. Why don't we have that? Because in our manas, we have created that differentiation, right? So the whole aspect of pleasure and pain is in the manas. But if my manas itself has dissolved and there is no more manas, there is no more buddhi, there is no deha jnana, then what will happen? You cannot function in this day-to-day world. So how do you function? Therefore, the way of functioning has been described as knowing fully well, knowing, not experiencing, but experiencing that at various points of time throughout the entire life as you go through. And knowing what you have experienced, being in that experience, understanding and remembering that experience. So let us look at another example. When the dreamer wakes up, where is the dreamer? When the dreamer wakes up, where is the dreamer? He has been absorbed into the waker, right? When the waker now awakens into the 4th state, where is the waker? He has also been absorbed into that state of Turiya. This state of being and touching that Turiya, understanding it, and therefore living your life, understanding that there is an experience that is beyond what I have experienced or am experiencing on a day-to-day basis, is what is called living in Brahmajnana. If I was living in continuous Brahmajnana, even if I am Shankaracharya himself, I would not be able to talk to you. Because there is no you. There is no you, there is no separate you. Only there is one. So how is the question of talking to you? There is no way I can talk to you also. So therefore, he says in this particular verse, he says, wherever, when duality appears because of my not understanding, there will be fear. So is there fear in such a Purusha who has touched this particular Nirvikalpa Samadhi and has understood and experienced Brahman also? Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa in his own life shows that, yes, it is possible. When Akshay dies in the Samadhi state, in the Savikalpa Samadhi state, he lifted his hands and he started dancing. And he said, one gone, one gone. Right? But when he came down from Samadhi, he held on to the railing in Dakshineshwar, where he used to stand in that veranda. And he was bursting with tears because of his attachment for Akshay. Now, these are all leelas to show us that we have to understand that while we have to live in our day-to-day world, we can still live. We may be affected by what is happening around us, but that affecting does not have to be permanent. We can overcome it. We can understand that it is nothing but temporary, and we can go ahead. All of you know the story of this also shall pass, no? No, very interesting story. So there was this king, and the king became a very popular king, very good king, good ruler, and he arrived at his 60th birthday. So 60th birthday being a landmark event, so there was a big celebration, Sashtiyabda Purti. So there was a big celebration, and everybody came with a lot of gifts, and people were giving some very costly gifts. So the minister, he came with one bowl of milk. So everybody was very surprised. This minister himself is also very rich. He is very. He has also served the master the king for a very long time. Why is he giving such a stupid gift? This bowl of milk. So the minister smiled and said, "Please drink the milk." So he drank the milk. As he drank the milk, there were some words inscribed on the bowl, and it was written, "This also shall pass. This also shall pass." And now what happened? 7-8 days later, his son was stung by a scorpion, went into extreme pain, legs swollen up, writhing in pain. Because he was writhing in pain, the king was also feeling the pain because of his attachment to his son. And the minister brought the bowl full of milk. This also shall pass. Right? Every time there is something good that happens, every time there is something bad that happens, we can live with that continual understanding that this also shall pass, because of that understanding that everything is Brahman. Everything will be in Brahman. What is happening is also Brahman. There is no experience, there is no experiencer, there is no experienced. Now Gurudev very nicely puts it in the next shloka. Next two shlokas we will see. Yasmin sarvani bhutani yatmatvena vijanataha na vai tasya bhaven moho na cha shoko dvitiyataha. So when you are non-dual, then there is no moha, there is no shoka. How can I be the source of misery for myself? How can I be the source of delusion for myself? Is there any point of time in your life where you have said, I don't exist? Right? I always exist. Since I always say that I always exist, there is no delusion in my mind about my own existence. So I cannot trick myself. We always say this, no? You can trick this entire world, but can you trick yourself? Now, you cannot trick yourself because there is always a permanent witness who is witnessing what is happening in your body, in your mind, in your intellect. Our body is a big trickster. We know that. The body is sometimes feeling heat, sometimes feeling cold. For that matter, it can be feeling heat and cold at the same time. right? I don't know if I have shared this particular experiment that you can do for yourself. You can take one ice cube in your hand, take the other hand near your gas stove, heat up both, go to a glass table, put both your hands. The glass will feel hot in one hand, will feel cold on another hand. Your indriyas will be lying to you. Your manas is lying to you. Your intellect is lying to you. When it says lying, meaning it is telling you facts or information, giving you information which is not the truth. So hence, how can I be deluded? I can only be deluded if I have identification with the body, mind, intellect. If I'm free from that delusion, from the body, mind, intellect attachment or identification, then there is no delusion, there is no misery. We saw this example again with Ramana Maharshi as well as with Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa was once told by one of his disciples, Thakur, please call on the mother and ask her to remove this cancer from your throat. And he said, you think I should call on the mother to do such small things, to do something with this body which is made out of nothing but the Panchabhutas? It is bound to die. And the last stage, Swami Vivekananda kept testing him. In the last, he just mentally thought, if you are really the divine incarnate, then I want you to declare that, even in this state. And in a voice that was a roar, where his voice had already gone. He did not have a voice because of his throat cancer. In a roar, he said, he who is Ram, he who is Krishna, is also is this Ramakrishna. Just at that point of time, reading the mind of Swami Vivekananda, he declared that. Because there was no body identification. In extreme pain, Ramana Maharshi was looking at his hand when it was being operated upon without anesthesia. Swami Kriyananda got his wisdom tooth extracted in my presence without any anesthesia. These are by simply, it's not mental control. It's just the fact that the mind stops existing because the pleasure and pain are in the mind. And you take your mind and you just put it away and you say, I'm going to switch it off. That ability, Ramana Maharshi says, somebody went and said, I have managed to learn how to control my mind. Ramana Maharshi smiled and asked him, okay, switch it off. So he pointed to a light over there, electric light, and he said, can you switch off that light? He said, yes, I can switch off that light. Okay, now you also switch off your mind. And obviously that person did not have that capacity and therefore had to retreat with his tail tucked between his legs. So what we understand here in this particular shloka is that when I understand Yetad vidura samritasva bhavati, he says, Upanishad says, he who knows this is immortal. He who knows this is immortal. Why I am immortal? I know that I am immortal because I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect. What is the Mrityunjaya shloka? Anybody remembers? Mrityunjaya mantra kya bolta hai? And then?
Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamibandhanat Mrityormukshiyamamrita.
Mrityormukshiyamamrita. Free me from death. Right? Now, very interesting. What is the analogy? Urvarukamiva bandhanat. Right? Urvarukamiva bandhanat. Urvaruka means the bottle gourd. Right? Anything of the gourd family. Karela, lauki, pumpkin. This will dry, but it will not snap from the string that is attaching it to the creeper. It will dry over there. It will burst over there, the seeds will fall. But it will not separate itself from that particular thing. Here is the principle of what is the teacher's job. The teacher's job, Urvarukamiva bandhanat, snap me from that attachment. and thereby give me moksha from mrityu. Snap me from that attachment and therefore give me. You cannot be, people say, oh, he's so unwell, he's suffering from fever, he's suffering from cancer. Let us do a Mrityunjaya Homa. Mrityunjaya Homa is not to cure somebody from cancer. For that, there is another deity called Dhanvantari, who operates in the physical plane. Mrityunjaya means to be able to conquer death. And that means to be able to conquer the fear that we live with because of the identification of the body, mind, intellect. Here, Acharya says, he who has understood that this entire thing is Brahman, including myself, there is no fear. There is no misery. There is no delusion. There is no question of anything coming in between me and my continued bliss. So he says, therefore, very interestingly, he declares, Ayam Atma hi Brahmaiva Sarvatmakayata Sthitaha iti nirdharita shrutya brihad aranya samsthaya. Now, interestingly, Ayam Atma Brahma is not in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Do you know where it is? Ayam Atma Brahma? Yes, correct. Mandukya Upanishad. Right? It is in the Mandukya. So, strangely, I don't know why he brought in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which has a different Mahavakya. The Mahavakya in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is Aham Brahmasmi. Now, and the other two are obviously Prajnana Brahma and Ayamatma and Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi is in the Chandogya Upanishad. Aitareya Upanishad says Prajnana Brahma. Now, if you have to read my understanding, and this is not from Gurudev or from Puji Guruji or anybody, but I think Acharya intentionally took one Mahavakya of one particular Upanishad and named another Upanishad because he wanted us to understand that all the four Mahavakyas actually say the same thing. Ayamatma Brahma and Aham Brahmasmi is nothing but the same. Just changing the perspective. This Atman is Brahman and I am Brahman are two different things. When I say this Atman is Brahman, therefore, is it saying that there is something which is other than this? No. Therefore, I am Brahman. There is nothing else. So when he brings in Mandukya along with Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, he brings in that combination of saying that this Atman is Brahman. The word this can mean that also is there. This, that. But then there is two. But there is no two because Aham Brahmasmi. So it's a very strong declaration. He says, this Atman is Brahman. And Shruti says that very, very clearly. Shruti says that very, very clearly. There is no, it is the same consciousness that pervades into everything. Prajnana Brahma says that consciousness permeates everything. There is consciousness in everything that we are perceiving. Ayamatma Brahma says that this Atman is Brahman. Tattvamasi is a declaration by the Guru to the student where he's saying that you are that which is Brahman. And finally, he reached that conclusion saying, yes, I am Brahma. I am Brahma. I am Brahma, the Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. But this is not easy to live. Therefore, in the verse number 56, Anubhutopyayam loko vyavahara kshamopi san. Here he brings in the vyavaharika satta. Asadrupo yatha swapna uttarakshana badhataha. So he says that your experience, anubhutaha, anubhuti means experience, anubhutaha, that which has been experienced. Vyavaharaksham, daily transactions, daily transactional living that we encounter is also asad. It is also unreal, like a dream. Swapna uttarakshana badhata, because it is a contradiction in terms. Why is it a contradiction in terms? It is a contradiction in terms because sat means existence. Now, existence by definition will mean that it was constant in the past, present, and future. By definition, it is existing. It is existing. It existed, it is existing, it will exist. That is the definition of Sat. That is the meaning of Sat. Now, in your day-to-day living, when you were in deep sleep, where is the waker and where is the dreamer? Not there. When you are the dreamer, where is the sleeper and where is the waker? Not there. When you are the waker, where is the sleeper? Where is the dreamer? Not there. So, neither the waker, dreamer, and sleeper, all three cannot be existing at the same point of time in one moment. So none of these three can be Sat. They are contradicting each other. They are contradictory in terms of the term existence. Uttarakshanabhadataha. So when anything that is not constant, we see that as a day-to-day transactions, it is very much real as long as I identify with it. The moment I stop identifying with it, its unreality becomes visible to me. When I move away from it, so when I wake up, the dream becomes unreal. When I move from sleep to the dreaming state, the sleep becomes unreal. When I wake up to the Turiya state, these three states become unreal. I become a witness to all three. Yes, please.
In the book Illusions by Richard Bach,
Yes.
he has this little incident that happens. I mean, this guy and that.
Sorry, I'm interrupting. Parthoda, Vishu, Minaji, if you have not read this book called Illusions, it is Advaita Vedanta explained in a very beautiful way. Please read it. Illusions. Actually, you should read both. You should first read Jonathan Livingston Seagull. First, you should read Jonathan Livingston Seagull. It is the journey of a seeker with a guru. That journey goes into an advanced state of learning in Illusions. Yes, please.
So in this one, there's a little incident where this guy and his guru are just lying down on a little hillside and looking up at the clouds. And he says, "What are those clouds? I mean, the clouds are there. I mean," so he says, "Can you make them vanish?" So yeah, you can make them vanish. You try. So he looks at the clouds and in his mind, he's hitting it with all kind of bombs and missiles and nuclear atom bomb and everything. And the cloud only seems to get stronger and bigger and bigger. It doesn't seem to vanish. He says, "This is nonsense. I can't do this." I mean, you're telling me, why don't you make the cloud vanish? So the guru looks at him and says, "Which cloud?" And he looks up, the cloud is not there anymore. So for the guru, the cloud was never there, so it does that.
So it is exactly, the point is, my reality is conditioned by my identification with myself as body, mind, intellect. And the moment that conditioning vanishes, immediately the world changes. Now, our conditioning is very difficult to change. I'm not saying that it is easy. Nor does Gurudev say that it is easy. It can come with a deep amount of sadhana continuously being done for years and years. And I use this word of conditioning in my corporate classes also. I ask people a very simple thing. Why don't we ask questions? Why do we lose our curiosity? Why do we not have the same curiosity that we had when we were 5 years old? And one of the biggest things is how we have got conditioned in our schooling system. Don't ask questions. Just do what I am telling you. And you keep on repeating that. And you then say, if you ask a question, you will get a rap on the head. You will get a rap on your knuckles, right? I will send you to the principal. Now that is in the school. In the house also, the parent is also doing the same thing. And over this period, this conditioning works towards removing the curiosity that enables us to grow, enables us to work. Now this conditioning, see, in a day-to-day Vyavaharika world also, conditioning is affecting how we grow. So in the Paramarthika world, conditioning of 84 lakh yonis is bound to be very, very tough to remove. So the only way to remove it is sadhana. So continuous sadhana is the only answer to this attainment of, or rather removal of the veils of ignorance. So should we stop here today? Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.